Rainbow Six North American League. Doe with Jesse Jacob with you at the desk once again. And guess what? It's time for our final map of the day. It's going to be Mirage versus Astralis. And yes, things have been rough for Mirage, but they are playing with their full roster, right? They haven't been able to really do that yet. They've had a bit of a COVID thing going on, as many teams do these days. And so everyone's playing from home still, but at least they're getting to field their full roster. Garrett doesn't have to sub in again. But their opponent is Astralis. And Astralis, has had a little bit of a hard time in week one, but they're still an extremely good team. And Mirage kind of has their work cut out for them. But I'm curious to see what they can do with a full squad.
I'm curious about whether their handicaps are going to be an issue here, because again, they played and won their first game with a handicap. That was call out, but they played it on LAN, so they ended up making things work. Then went and played with DP Fire, but whether it's a case of DP Fire still being under the weather, they played at home, which meant they weren't playing on the LAN build. So now we find ourselves at like a weird moment where maybe he's feeling good enough again, even if they're still not able to get to the arena, but they're still playing online, and if that's going to be a big problem. On the other hand, Mirage haven't played a single game this stage from the LAN center, so we're still trying to figure out where both teams sit at the minute.
Yeah.
Both of these teams coming off of, I think, playdays that they weren't super happy with, right? Both coming in off situations where they didn't have their full team in the first week. So I'm hopeful that they can both kind of show us a bounce back and give us a close game.
Yeah, again, the big thing is just both teams getting to play with their full rosters, which is just what we want at the end of the day. We just want to have the full squads competing here. But let's talk about Mirage a little bit more. Again, I feel like the data we have so far on Mirage is there. It exists. Those games have been played. You can't take that back in the standings. But again, there are the asterisks there with the health issues, with having to sub your coach in for Melted that one game. So now I feel like we kind of start over in a sense to see where this team is really at this stage.
Yeah, but you're doing that after 2 games have already passed, and it's the law of first impressions, right? You are going to forever be remembering what this team has done through only their first 2 weeks, even if it's not an accurate representation of what they are capable of doing as a squad. That's the problem that these guys face, and even if they're able to finally get to the LAN center to play on the proper build of the game with their full team, everyone feels healthy. At what point are they finally going to get to a point where they're actually playing like themselves, and will it be too late for them to get any points from it to even worry about major qualification? It may be too late for them.
I want to highlight Melted here because currently he is not having a great time. He's the lowest rated player in the league after week 1, 0.44 rating, 4.4 rating even, 27 cost, 9 survival rate. He actually performed worse in week 1 than the coach that substituted for him in every single tracked stats.
Yikes.
But they need him. And now with him coming back into the lineup, with him being full strength, I really think that this can make the difference for Mirage. Melted towards the end of last stage when he was actually playing fragging operators, got kills. This has been a big thing for Mirage. They haven't had the biggest gunners on their team so far. I mean, you look at who's on this roster. You have Marmalade, who's a very traditional hard support player. You've got Benji, who last stage had fewer kills than any non-support player in the entire league, as long as they played the full season. You have Nyx, who played 11 rounds on attack before getting his first kill. And then you've got Kento, who's good, but let's be honest, if he's too good, Space Station's probably just going to buy his contract and turn him into league MVP. So I'm really expecting Melted to have a big game here. I think there's a lot of pressure on his shoulders to be that gunner that Mirage needs to get more of those kills actually on the board for Mirage. And if he shows up and has a poor performance like he did when he was sick last week, then it's going to be very tough for Mirage to battle back.
I mean, I think the end of last stage proved that he was criminally misused last stage, which is a really big deal for them to recognize that mistake and then come into this stage realizing that what they needed to do was put him on entry and put somebody else on flank, which is exactly what they've done, because that still seems like Benji's best path forward is playing flank watch for this team as opposed to what he did last stage. But it's still not going to be enough if Melted isn't there still doing that job. Yes, his performance in play number 1 was abysmal, but we're saying that because he was also sick as a dog and wasn't able to play up to standard to a point where he couldn't even play the second play day. So I don't want to harp too much on those stats, but I am saying this right now for Mirage. If you don't win this game, it will be too late for you to qualify for Berlin, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, and moving on to talk about Astralis, there might not be a better time for them to try to get this win than against the Astralis that we've seen in week 1 so far. They have 1 win, but it was in overtime, and then they have that loss as well. And things have just seemed slightly off for Astralis. And part of it is having your coach play for 1 game, but that was the one they did win. When a DP Fire came back, it still looked a little bit rough, a little bit off, like we talked about. So I'm looking for this team to bounce back and show us what they showed us at the Major, which was a stellar org where anyone can pop off at any time. If they aren't going to be that team, then I think Mirage has a shot.
I feel like maybe they were giving up a little bit too much ground to Parabellum when they lost that game to them without contesting them on defense. I think they fixed it a little bit later in that match, but it was maybe a bit too late. Too often it was just kind of them sitting in the bomb site 5v5 without actually enough room to to stop Mirage or to stop PB on their initial aggression. So I want to see that get fixed a little bit here today, but I do expect Astralis to sharpen up a little bit more. I think that this has been a team that has proven themselves as one of the best, not just in North America, but the entire world, placing top 2 at the major. They're coming back now. They play kind of a unique style. They don't have super strongly defined roles like we've talked about with teams such as Oxygen. So they can be a little bit unpredictable at times, but it really does work for them.
I think they just had a really whack first week overall, and I think they've already understood that week has passed. They still escaped with a couple points. It's not the end of the world. They got 2. They're down at the bottom of the standings, but that's only a temporary measure given the way that the rest of the league has been super hyper-competitive. They can get out of this with another 3 points. They can get up to 5, which would put them right in contention with Dark Zero and Space Station for that number 4 spot, right below PB. There's ample opportunity for them to get this, but they have to take advantage of a very bruised and battered Mirage lineup that hasn't been able to perform against anything, and I feel like this Astralis team absolutely can do it, assuming everyone feels up to speed.
Yeah. I think that like one player I'm looking at especially too is Forrest. He's 7-2 on entry right now, and if he can
and he's their support player, by the way.
Yeah, of course. I mean, again, rolls are wild on Astralis, but if he can keep that up, I think they've got a good chance here of just rolling over Mirage.
All right, well, we'll find out a little bit more about if that's going to be possible when we find out what map we're going to, and that time is right now. The bands are in, so let's check out where we're going to be playing here.
Look at this, man. No Clubhouse, no Villa. If we ever find Astralis playing Clubhouse, that's a little interesting. Mirage have tried Villa several times over the past number of months and have never been able to translate that to anything meaningful. They played it against XSET just last week and got bodied on it, so they don't want to try that one again. No Border for Astralis, which that's a little surprising considering they always felt like new map pioneers, but maybe against Mirage there's something about playing more loose that Mirage will actually be able to take advantage of. That's the one time Mirage even won a game last stage was one of the times they did was against that Beast Coast team that kept Beast Coast out of the major in the first place. No Cafe for Astralis, no Bank for Mirage, given the way that we saw Mirage play Bank last stage, even if they have 2 new players, still makes it seem like that's something that they would prefer to keep out of their pocket for right now, which means we're left down to these last 3.
Chalet, Theme Park, Skyscraper. Theme Park of those 3 is the only one that Mirage have managed to win on in their history. That includes all forms of their previous rosters. Chalet has been a tough one for them historically. Despite that, Astralis choose to ban it. They're not going to be so lucky as to get to play Skyscraper. AST are so good on that map, so of course Mirage will take the easy pick and go Theme Park instead. As I mentioned, 1 play so far, and it was a win. 7-5 over TSM, playday 3 last stage. Astralis, though, also undefeated on Theme Park. They've got a 3-game winning streak, being Parabellum, Beast Coast, and then the Wolves down in Charlotte.
It definitely feels like because Mirage had the call between these last 2 maps, they got one that Astralis themselves have already said we're willing to play a couple of times, but it's the one where they had plenty of control themselves when they played it back in stage 1 to a point where they can reuse some of those strats again with Nyx and Kento to really make it flourish. The only question is, have like Astralis' strats on this map gotten to a point where Mirage simply won't be able to break through? That's what I think is going to happen here.
It's a good question. Both teams, though, of course, over the weekend, a chance to kind of digest a little bit of stage 1, looking to see a little bit better stuff from both squads. But now it's time to predict who we think is going to win the final map of the day here at the NAL. Let's send it over to our casters first to get their opinions. Once again, it's Antero and Lynx. How you guys doing?
Hello there.
Hello.
I actually get to make my prediction known first. We had Lynx go first because obviously
I was right.
You needed an introduction.
And I was right.
That he was.
You're right. I was wrong. That would be a bounce back
start.
game. My gut says Astralis still, but with the way today has gone,
No.
Beast Coast match, with the Parabellum match,
Don't say it.
with Sonic's match, I'm still going to go with Astralis.
Okay.
I don't honestly.
Thank God.
Okay.
I mean, it was
Scared me
real
there for a
close, wasn't it? But I honestly think Astralis is still that team that showed up at the major, but I mean, there's worrying signs from Dark Zero not performing up to snuff. If Astralis isn't still as good of a team because they're in best of 1s now instead of best of 3s and best of 5, who honestly knows? But I don't have confidence in Mirage to be able to pull it out today. And I think that's really what it comes down to.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those matches where, sure, is there a potential Mirage could win? Of course there is. Is there potential that I'm going to, like, bet my prediction on it? No, we just haven't seen it yet. First game back with their full roster, full roster where Melted isn't, suffering full-on from COVID. Astralis is just the safer bet and probably the team who's going to win, and that's really the beginning and the end for me.
Fair enough. 2 for Astralis from our casters. We'll check back with you in a moment when the map is about to begin. Thank you very much. and it's time to talk to our analysts now. It feels like you kind of have to pick Astralis because so much is unproven about Mirage, not only in their health for their squad, but also their 2 new members in Kento and Nyx. Well, new and also returning members anyway, and that just doesn't seem to have gelled yet either. But is there anything there that convinces you to not pick Astralis?
Nope.
Nope.
I'm gonna go.
There you go.
I'm gonna go with
I'm
Astralis.
going Astralis.
That's what I expected.
That's all.
But, all right, to Astralis. We'll see what the coin has to say. It's going to be Mirage for heads. It's going to be Astralis for tails. We're going to give it a good flip.
Please go heads.
It's heads. the coin just loves heads today. I don't know. I don't know. The substitute coin, the Kennedy $50 from 1999, just prefers heads. Yeah. Never got
Has it
over
literally
Y2K,
never
I
gone
guess.
tails all day today?
Today.
It has not been tails all day. It's weird.
Are we not sure that that coin isn't just heads on both sides?
Did they give?
No, there is a legitimate tails side to this, see?
Is it weighted? I mean, it's not your coin. You can't certify it's not.
That's true.
I given
we got that from a crew member.
an outrageous coin? No, I think it's fine. All right, well, let's check out what the fans have to say, who they're predicting to win this one. It's going to be Astralis again, and so that means that everyone was really kind of picking logically, except for the thing that has no logic. So no surprise there. Let's look at the community poll, and the question for our last match of the day is going to be, can Mirage bounce back, or will Astralis shoot to the top again?
To the stars!
Well, I don't know if either of those things are happening for this particular map, but Astralis may get a win, which will help boost them up in the standings anyway. Although, upsets are fun.
It's true.
You never know. You never know. We're going to take a momentary respite, and when we return, the final match of the day begins. Don't go anywhere, because Rainbow Six NAL comes back in just a few.
I'm Forrest, and this is an NAL.
Well, it's time for our very final matchup of the day. Some great music to accompany us into that matchup. Love the saxophone.
I actually played the saxophone for like 2 years in middle school, but
When?
2 years in.
When did I ask? I'm Intero. I'm with Lynx. He's making his second casting voyage. Here, you were brought in during stage 1 when there were a rash of absences.
Like 3 people gone.
Yeah.
It was wild.
You just couldn't make it. There was a lot of prior commitments. Let's put it that way. I had COVID, I think, when you were here. I can't remember. But anyway, he's back.
I'm here.
Working as
actually I'm Lynx, but
color commentator. Nick is off for the week. You'll be here tomorrow as well. Pengu is on a sabbatical. I mean, he's doing something.
Somewhere in the greater Niagara Falls region.
A journey to the center of the earth. We have both Astralis and Mirage going toe-to-toe. Now, they are not playing from our wonderful facility at the Esports Arena in Las Vegas. No, they're playing from home.
Yeah, they are.
Because DP Fire, as far as I'm aware, still is not a free man. Instead, you have the team that COVID swept through, which is Mirage, playing from home. I think they're good to go. I think it's just Astralis. Either way.
Yeah, it is.
Either way, as you can see, the 4 players on your screen. Astralis finished second at the Charlotte Major. If you weren't paying attention at all during that LAN event that occurred about a month ago or so, well, they haven't exactly had the most impressive season just yet. They sit towards the bottom of the NAL standings. Mirage also at the bottom of the NAL standings. So this is what is on paper a battle of the have-nots right now, even though we know that in terms of pedigree, Astralis are capable of achieving more than they've had so far. Let's get underway with Theme Park. Mirage are literally in last.
Yes.
Or no, 9th. They're tied in last. And then Astralis are sitting in 7th. We don't have 9 teams anymore. We have 10 teams.
Yep.
Yes. First ban is going to be Thatcher. Theme Park right now, in terms of play rate, has been played 3 times in the NAL so far this stage. It is tied with Oregon now for being the most played map. Theme Park was added back to the map pool for people who are unaware when the map pool expanded to 9 maps. Added in Border, added in Skyscraper, and added in Theme Park. Theme Park's defender win rate is 61%. That means that you're expecting a 4-2 scoreline for the defenders unless something major changes. In terms of the bomb sites, we'll get into them when we actually get into the action. Operator bans are now all done. Nook was an operator in our matchup that just concluded that you singled out as having a growing pick rate, but also a growing ban rate. Removed from action, as is Azami. They are no more.
Yeah, I asked Jesse before the game started. I said, Jesse, it's Theme Park. Do you think a zombie's going to get banned? He said, yes. And she's banned. So that's actually pretty crazy.
Wow, what analysis.
If you thought that was good analysis, you'd be the only one. No, but seriously, Theme Park, out of really all the maps in the pool right now, has probably had some of the most impactful Azami play, or at least one of the positions that I think of the most. And again, this was also something Jesse and I briefly talked about. On the upstairs floor, inside of Cash, or next to Dragon, they just play that long hallway. They'll keep barriers, create deployable shields, block off windows. Big position for her to play. Can't do that anymore because she's off the board. Also taking off the Nook. This is a map where, if you remember last week, Gunnar had a pretty cool ace where he, I'm not joking, if you didn't watch it, he crouch walked from Gong to Lab and took site. So, needless to say, this is a pretty...
It's quite the journey.
It is quite the journey. Not to the center of the earth, but across the entire map.
I wonder if he'll find Pengu on the way.
Maybe
he will discover where Nick has gone.
Pengu's actually hidden inside of Throne Room right now. If you look closer, you might be able to find him.
Wow, that is really incredible. Either way, very first bomb site is going to be Throne Room downstairs. I promised you that we would get into the win rates for both the attackers and the defenders. And by Jove, would you not look at it? Armory Throne Room, the bomb site that Astralis are starting out on, has an 83% win rate for the defenders. It's been played 12 times. That is quite the statistic. Some abnormalities that we see right now from Astralis. Number one, Capkin is not an operator who has a steady pick rate, and yet Iconic is bringing him out. Those 5 EDDs can go just about anywhere that they want, and multiple can go on a single door frame or window. Additionally, we have an Ella with a shotgun. This is not an operator that we see all the time on this bomb site, and Astralis are spread out all over the map right now.
And to be fair, if any player on Astralis were to run Ella shotgun, I would think it would be Forrest. If you just approached me and told me to take a guess, I would have said Forrest, and what do you know? He's the one playing her. And you talked about Astralis being spread all over the map right now. One position that we're looking at right now that might face a lot of tension is Iconics on top of Arcade stairs right now. 3 players currently stationed outside of Arcade window, but they've not taken a step inside of it yet. Shuttle might be close by. Given Iconics' position the last time we saw him, he's in a prime spot to take a fight with either Kento on this window or anybody pushing into Cafe. Oh my, you not just realized, Parker? Mirage have 1 drone left.
That's it. Only 1 remaining, and Melted capitalizing off of it either way. And that drone, by the way, in the back pocket could have been for Twitch too. Look at this killing Astralis, just eating Mirage alive. 3 players from Mirage wiped off of the map at this very early junction. Yes, Iconic did technically die first, but I think Astralis came out ahead of that exchange. It's just Benji and Kento now. That's it for Mirage. Just a little bit over a minute to go. So still time for Mirage to get on in, but they don't have any hard destruction. Still tons of utility. 1 air jab, both nades, 3 flashes, and 2 adrenal surges. Means that there's potential for Mirage, but it's going to be tough.
Yeah, it's not going to be easy, especially with, again, as I said, that one drone on the board. Though, coincidentally, Benji is the one who has that final drone on the board, so if he wants to get some intel, he still has 50 seconds and that one drone, so he can drive it around. But just goes to show how very quickly Mirage were handicapped at the beginning of the round by losing so many drones. They might not be aware of J9O's position, currently playing in maintenance, though he is on 1 HP, which could be an easy kill to make it a 3v2 if Mirage play their cards right, or if they're careful. But Kento and Benji both focusing on yellow and split right now, which is exactly where Forrest has stacked up with that Ella shotgun. Kento checking all of these angles, operating again with no intel because of that one drone on the board. He'll cook a nade and send it forward, and Forrest takes that exact time to push. It's actually the Captain trap that finishes it off. Fortuitous timing. Forrest, unfortunately, does not get the kill, but Astralis do get round number 1.
Iconic's not even alive. He's the only dead player for Astralis, yet he's credited with one of the final 2 kills. Callout no longer playing. He had to play all the way back
Ball out.
in playday number 1. What did you say?
I said ball out.
Oh, ball out. I thought you said Bolo. And I was
No,
like, what?
he's not playing.
He's not. When does Bolo play?
You
Tomorrow.
missed it.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
missed it. He plays tomorrow. But
He also lost.
yes, unfortunately, TSM falling at the hands of OXG in the matchup earlier. Apologies for the spoilers. One of the things that we need to focus on is Astralis and their must-win situation against Mirage. Not to slander the good team from the Great White North, but if Astralis do not prevail here, their shot at going to the major is effectively gone. It's still very possible statistically, because there's still 6 more matches. It's possible that Astralis then goes 6-0 to finish the stage and qualify for the major. But at this point, starting 1-2 with a loss to Mirage is not the position that you want to find yourself in when Mirage have shown the most struggles of any NAL team thus far.
And even then, even if Mirage, you know, if this is the only match they win, if you're Astralis, that still could be a key deciding factor in just deciding out round differential or deciding out head-to-head. Whatever it ends up happening, there still could be a loss that if Astralis do lose it, could come back to bite them, even if it is maybe one of the only ones they suffer through this stage. But of course, going off that first round where Mirage didn't even really enter the building, save from Melted just kind of face-checking inside a daycare, there wasn't really much to round number 1, so that's the pace we keep going with. Astralis are looking very good on these defenses, going to initiation room and office. Maybe Mirage keeping some of those drones alive and also getting in better positions to use the utility. Maybe we'll see some improvements, but they are starting on this cafe side again, and that makes me a little worried given round number 1.
It was very quick for Astralis. They love these offsite plays, and Theme Park has been dominated in the NAL by teams that like to roam very hard. W7M seemed to set this meta in motion in Latin America, being so proficient and so free-flowing on their defenses. Just continuing to maneuver and use their skills to their advantage. Astralis want to do the same. We saw the same from Beast Coast when they were on Theme Park. And I mean, it stands to reason. If you can try and stifle the advantage that comes with that attacker repick by getting an early pick onto a Finka or a Hard Breacher, you can effectively win the round in the first 40, 50 seconds. We've already gotten past that point though, by the way. Everybody's still alive, even though Kento continues to lose HP. DP fire on this hold over by Cafe. He's got 1 toxic canister left. A lot of angles for him to look towards on this office and initiation defense. A critical part of this map, in terms of map control, comes over towards Bunk. DP Fire finally dusted off, but Iconic trades it back right away. Again, Mirage get the opening pick, but it's not for that long, and Astralis can keep things even.
Look at how much utility that DP Fire wasted just by existing right there. Wasted some flashbangs, wasted all of Kento's utility, and went 1-for-1 with him as well, just baiting out his own life once he ran out of toxic canisters. And Mirage got some good control. Nyx can now start moving up arcade stairs without being as worried as he might be if DP Fire was still alive. But 2 minutes gone, a lot of utility gone as well. Well, I was about to say Astralis might need to start bunkering down, but Iconic rotates right in front of Nyx, and Melted is watching this exact flank that Forrest is going on, and that's 2 big kills for Mirage.
Melted's stats were highlighted while we were waiting to get into the matchup, and while they might not be the strongest, he's definitely making a name for himself right now, leaving just Shuttle as the last player for Astralis in this rat angle. Down goes the Capitao of Nyx, and Shuttle watches as some of that hard breach around him goes off, and it's Marm to get the final kill for Mirage and put their team on the board.
And of course, DP Fire did do some good work, just delaying the entry, going 1-for-1, allowing Iconic to get that kill. But Mirage, once they started moving up arcade stairs, Iconic unfortunately just walks out the doorway and walks right in front of Nyx. I think just a little bit of an in-the-moment oversight right there, maybe taking that angle for granted, just assuming it was getting covered. Whatever happens, he walks in front of it, unlucky, but that gives Mirage the opening to then get a little bit of a stronghold on that part of the map. And then you have Melted. just hanging out in security outside the site. Nobody's really focusing on him that much because everyone from Mirage, or at least it seems like everyone on Mirage, is pushing Arcade and Cafe. So he just sits there waiting for someone to rotate back to the site, and Forrest only realizes he's there right as he enters the engagement. So honestly, even though there was a lot of action going on that Arcade side, I really got to give it to Melted. Just playing the patient game, not playing his hand too early, and able to really swing things in Mirage's favor.
One of the changes that Mirage made as well was putting Melted on more of those aggressive roles to work alongside Kento. And honestly, even though Mirage have not found a ton of success through this stage, they sit at 0-2, the basement of the NAL. I honestly think there's far more promise with this roster here than what we saw from them in the previous stage.
I agree.
And I know that we've dunked on Nyx a couple times and memed on him for not exactly having the best re-entry to the NAL. But there's no doubt that he brings a lot of structure to this team, and most of his former teammates will tell you that Nyx can be a focal point and that lightning rod for a team to just kind of put all their energy into, and then he can move the team in whichever direction he wants. He might not have the best stats, but the rest of the team will likely flourish from it. And Mirage with that round looked much more clinical on their entry.
And that's one thing Mirage, of course, one of their problems last stage you talked about, leadership and structure. Marmalade would go in for plants and just nobody would be covering her when they would need to be. On a site like Lab, let's say you want to hop in through that window, you need to make sure you establish vertical, which of course will be Nyx's key opportunity, have someone watching the window as well. This is a site that if you want to go for an execute and get the bomb down, you need to have all of your angles on lock through that vertical and of course through that horizontal as well. So definitely a site in particular where that leadership will come in handy. Of course, if they also just want to focus on the roam right now, take down Shuttle and I believe Forrest upstairs, they will certainly have their work cut out for them as they're playing these same positions and are probably not as eager to give them up as they were last time.
Forrest underneath the hatch, drones going in. You talked about Mirage in that very first round, only having one drone left. Well, now they're down to 2, and there's still over half of the round to go. There's a mute on the board, so that'll likely be suffocating Mirage's entry with that intel, but still not exactly where you want to be with the information game being as crucial as it is these days. Flash goes in, and EE1D comes out. Not a lot gained from it from Mirage as they continue to work on that Cafe presence. Down goes Nyx, his entry thwarted by DP Fire, and now Melted's the one under fire, and he gets swung on by Iconic. That's the King back in action. As over towards Lab, Iconic will go, the bomb site. The target for Mirage, but they've lost 2 players in the process.
Again, now only one active drone in the hands of Marmalade, who, to be fair, if your hard support has another drone, that's exactly who you want to have it, especially with Kento and Benji on the board, especially Kento on that Finka. But you lose players like Melted just walking in a Dragon, trying to find an opening, gets caught completely off guard by Iconic, probably because he's not only working off of late intel, he's working off of no intel. All you have now are these EE1Ds, and it gets Benji 1 kill and gives his team some more info at that. But now you're in the 2v4, you're struggling to find an opening inside of the site, and there's still some players off, and unfortunately, Benji gets a little bit ahead of himself. No leadership means he walks right into Kento's LMG and walks right into another victory for Astralis.
Right as I'm praising Astralis looking more composed and more centered with Nyx, they get slaughtered yet again by Astralis. And this is the second round where they have, in Mirage's instance, had some serious problems droning and some serious problems getting information down. If you're going to be throwing drones at the problem, you should have somebody there to back them up. And right now, when we look at Mirage through these 3 rounds, we're noticing that they're very low on information. They lose their drones early on, but there's nobody capitalizing off of it. It's fine if you lose a drone, but then you either flush out a defender, or you open up a wall, or you get rid of some utility, or even get a kill. But that's not what we've been seeing. We see Mirage droning, losing a drone, somebody goes back on drone, they lose that drone, and now you've gained nothing for it, and you're still outside the cafe door, wondering where around bunk is the defender sitting.
And I think round 2 is actually a really good example of that, because even then, when they were able to seemingly get a solid, or sorry, round number 1, when they were able to get a solid entry, Melted just walks right on in, and he just ends up dying anyway. And even in initiation as well, round number 2, you just have Kento sitting outside a window for a good portion of the time and waiting for the opportunity to be given to him. Going back to Throne, this was the first round where we really saw the information woes for Mirage start creeping in. Here, they're at least changing the lineup a little bit. We don't see Twitch coming through, so they'll have, the full 2 drones on the board. At least the 2 normal drones, no Twitch drones to worry about. But specifically, Melted is on Amaru and Benji is on Dokkaebi. They might be trying to clear this roam and get some control without even having to worry about gathering intel too much.
Well, We are only 15 seconds in, and during the prep phase at least, Mirage didn't lose any of that information. This is a good point for us to fixate on, and I have no doubt the analysts will talk about it too, because they get that top-down view to see exactly where these drones are going. Mirage are scouting in, and again, nobody is following it. There's nobody who's entered. You've got a drone over towards Bunk, you've got a drone over towards Yellow Stairs, you've got logic bombs coming out, but nobody's made their way from Mirage into Cafe. Nobody's made their way towards the arcade stairs. Nobody's made their way towards arcade window. And it allows Astralis to hold this critical avenue while you've now lost those 2 drones from Mirage.
And Melted has gotten some good control, but at the same time, Astralis accounted for it. They thought maybe somebody would try to repel into break, get a very nice spot that would, well, make Shuttle's position right there extremely difficult to play, and they barricaded it. Said, okay, well, if you're going to push that, we will know that you're there. The Iconic will now go back to retreat, but Melted has initiated, and a C4 on the opposite side of the unreinforced wall takes down the very player you were hoping would make the roam clear a lot easier.
Melted on that Amaru knew exactly that there was someone nearby because the logic bomb's going off. I don't know if Iconic had that same information. Maybe that was just a rotate Nitro Cell. We don't actually know the intentions behind it, but a good read by Iconic either way. Astralis, after forfeiting the opening kill in the first 2 rounds, get first blood in 3 and now 4. They're back on this thrown bomb site again. The stats for the bomb site, very dire for the attackers. It's one of the most defender-sided bomb sites in the entire game that has more than just a small sample size on it. Mirage have had to burn 2 adrenal surges now, and an exothermic charge is going to come off. And Nyx waits for a rotate down Dragon, as it seems like Mirage being a bit more patient and a bit more thorough this time.
They are, and to be fair, well, I was going to say it is a little bit more manageable, but Kento will start marching up the Yellow Stairs. Brings at least 1 kill under their belt, but I was going to say there was only 1 Astralis defender on the site. They started to move over towards Yellow. That's a spot where you don't need to have the man advantage nearly as much, say, if you're trying to move in to Throne from maintenance. Now that it's even, now that they have this wall open, and now that Marmalade is getting into the fray, things have suddenly shifted for Mirage, and now they have a good opportunity to move in and get this bomb down, but they need to watch Yellow.
The whole site is wide open, and the retake from Astralis needs to be very thorough, and it seems to be working out. So Mirage was baited into the bomb site with waiting arms from Astralis, and now seeking shelter by Split. The diffuser looks to be planted by Kento. He aborts the first time, the drop will go in, sticking it. Pros don't fake at all. Astralis need to reposition over towards Throne, which is exactly where it is. Kento has so many bullets to deal with this problem. A nade goes out just to try to do some area denial. 88 bullets remaining for Kento, but J9, a beautiful shot from downtown, effectively. That's not a duel you want to be losing, no matter who you are. Astralis allow Mirage to take map control, and it seems like a victory, but it's a Pyrrhic one at that. And immediately, Astralis on the retake crushes the final 3 players, and they're now up 3-1 on their theme park defense.
Yeah, and it seemed like, I mean, obviously Mirage thought so as well, that that site was wide open. I mean, there's only 1 player on there. There's only so many avenues that the defense can rotate back down. You just have Nyx watching Dragon, have someone watching Yellow as Marmalade goes to open the wall. This should be good. And what do you know? You also get someone who's rotating back. You also get the person inside of the site. That should be all well and good. But once we get down to that 2v3, the 2 players that Mirage lost earlier really starts coming back to bite them, because you can only watch so much. You have to decide, okay, do we want to watch Dragon and Yellow, or do we want to watch maybe the Hatch inside of Split and give up one of those rotations? But at the same time, if you're watching, you know, the Hatch and a Staircase, you're not watching inside of the site where somebody might already be, and that's where that lack of intel, where the drone count wasn't as bad, but it's still starting to get late. You're starting to get into this execute stage, and you can't sacrifice anybody droning. Mirage losing those 2 players really hampered their ability to even make decisive actions later on.
Right, and I mean, they had what? I think they had 6 drones remaining in total. It was about that, but again, you don't know the exact count of who is still alive and where those drones are situated, right? The defense from Astralis allowed map control to go to Mirage, and they spend so much time focusing on that bomb site, right? That you don't have the time, as you pointed out. If you've got a Thermite who needs to get the wall open and then get the diffuser down, it's likely that Thermite might still have 1 drone remaining. You can't do anything with it because you have the focus on the execute. So again, as we talked about in rounds 1 and 3, Mirage lost a lot of drones. Round number 4, they might have had a lot remaining, but you can't exactly get the most use out of them and utilize that information that comes with them. Either way, Astralis picking up at least 3 rounds in this first half. For Theme Park, that's about what it needs to be at very minimum, exactly. Again, we'll remind you, this is 61% in favor of the defense so far through the stage of the NAL. So if you are not racking up the numbers on your Theme Park defense, you are in trouble unless there's some seriously funky bans going on.
And really, given the meta right now, not too many funky bans going on either side for both these teams. But we do see, we talked about the Ying quite a bit during SQ and DZ. right here, we have Marmalade coming in with that Ying to try to mix things up for Mirage on the attack. Maybe find a way to take down DP Fire without going 1-for-1 and take something a lot more solid in the early round. Kento is, of course, playing his normal position on Arcade Window that we've seen him do time and time again so far, so unsurprising there. But how they deal with DP Fire behind the shield and whether or not they let him waste a whole 30 extra seconds with those toxic canisters on top of him just normally playing there, that's the area we need to see improvement on.
Drones have gone in, but not the usual suspects. These are Rotero drones, and finally one will meet the shield that it was intended to blow up, and that gives DP Fire less coverage over towards Cafe. This is a bunk defense. This is the first time that we're seeing Astralis go here. In terms of success, well, it's about even, honestly. It's 58-42, which is pretty close, depending on the operator bans. So you've got an equal opportunity for both of these teams, but I gotta look at what's been used just to flush out this one player from Astralis. A lot of utility from Mirage has gone in, and there's not a ton to show for it, but we've got J90 down. The first set of Candelas look to rain on in as Marm can drop, but instead, maybe just buying time because she falls off of her position. Candelas continue to go. J90's not been retrieved. Now Marm is back over towards Cafe. There's the remainder of J90, finished off by Nyx. Now it's DP Fire at the Cafe door. Another toxic canister is going to go. That's all expended. A nice shot onto Marm, but totally blind, and he'll have to seek safe harbor elsewhere. Benji with Diffuser, walking it through Cafe. For now, just spam firing into a position in case DP Fire is there. That AR-33 gonna run out of ammunition pretty quickly. DP Fire could capitalize off of that, but instead does not. He backs away to these arcade cabinets and awaits the push from Mirage. As down goes Nyx and a hop in from Kento.
Oh!
He takes out Iconic. Very nice. Benji swings, but Forrest has the small angle. Down he goes, melted a refrag. It's just bloody between these teams. It's been non-stop action for about a minute. Prolonged conquest for Mirage, but it looks like they might come up empty-handed unless Melted can go for this 1v2 clutch. Not a ton of time left. Dwindling down, needs to pick his targets, but has no idea where they are. DMR goes, and it's a miss from Shuttle, but DP Fire very wisely plays keep away. That was about a minute and 20 seconds of non-stop action between these teams. It comes down to a 1v1, but the clock gives the victory into the column of Astralis, and they win the first half with at least 4 rounds, still 1 more to go.
And then what do you have? You have Marmalade toss those Candelas down, and we think, okay, this is where the push happens. This is where, oh, no, never mind. We're going to wait another 7 to 10 seconds. And okay, now we're going to push. Oh, but DP Fire has now killed one of them, and the entry is now stopped even more. That was seemingly the big problem right there. You have that non-stop action, you have all the utility, but it still results in DP Fire's position a lot more uncomfortable. But again, there was nothing decisive from Mirage in that round. Nothing that solidly said, okay, they're in control right now. They're the ones pressing Astralis. They were putting up a fight, but they never really seemed like they were able to get ahead. And right now, sure, you know, Theme Park maybe a little bit defender-sided. 3-3 is the bare minimum, but still a 5-1 half for any team. We saw what kind of lead Sonics had previously and how easy it was to retain it later.
Absolutely correct. And a 5-1 scoreline for Sonics. In our previous matchup, if you didn't watch it, spoilers inbound, so maybe plug your ears for about a second. That 5-1 lead that Sonics racked up is just so daunting, because if you don't do the same thing and go to overtime, you lose. That's it, right? You have a very small window of opportunity, whereas a 4-2, you can still go 5-1 on your half. It's more winnable just based on the way that site rotations go, and depending on operator bans could make a huge difference. But for now, Mirage find themselves in quite a large hole, and it's nowhere near where they want to be. Either way, this is the second attempt at Lab that we've seen. Astralis came out on top. They got the first pick. It was their second round victory. It was all the way back in round number 3. And they've played all 4 bomb sites so far. The only bomb site they've lost was that Office Initiation, which does actually have the lowest win rate for the defenders. It's currently sitting at 29% for the defenders. So 71% for the attackers is about as lopsided as you're going to get through the 7 times that it's been played. Add another to the tally for the attackers on play number 8, as it was Mirage who came out successful in that round.
Yeah, and the difference between Initiation and Lab as opposed to like favorability is Initiation, it can be very easy to just shut down the very little offsite angles there are, and then also, you know, section off any defenders inside of the site. For Lab, there's a whole other dimension you have to deal with. You have to worry about defenders upstairs, which we can see Astralis are, surprisingly, playing right now. The DP Fire has taken up the mantle of the Ela away from Forrest. He's also running that Scorpion instead of the SMG, though Forrest is close by on the roam as well. With that MP5, both the duo of the Ela and the Melusi not getting any kills just yet, but half the round is now gone, and what do you know? Mirage are having troubles on the entry, but Marmalade gets one.
And there's no trade back from Astralis, so second round in a row where a first blood from Mirage will buy them an opening. Now down goes Forest, isolated inside of Cash. Benji have been toying with entrying on this part of the map, and he succeeds to at least pick off one of the defenders. An answer back coming from the Frost of Shuttle. Down goes Nyx. Nightmare Nyx not showing up for this matchup just yet, sitting on 3 and 6. He needs to help his team in terms of IGLing, maybe not necessarily on the scoreboard.
And also with Nyx gone, I mean, that's your key player is going to do vertical, also off the board as well. And Kento just walking in through the doorway. Jane, I know, silently takes him down. And, well, I guess that's your Finka gone, but again, no intel.
I mean, to be fair, you've got 4 drones remaining from Mirage. They haven't exactly had the most success droning that we've seen through this matchup. And you got a rat angle being held with 2 rotates over towards pipes and then leading out of there as well.
Oh,
so,
no.
well played by Astralis. And again, Jane, I know, is this phantom illusion. And Marm looked like she was looking in a different direction, but picks her targets correctly. That leaves Benji in a 1v2. Gishmat mine goes off, and they know that he's in the middle of the bomb site. 30 seconds to go for Benji to retrieve this diffuser. As you said, no case whatsoever. Right now, Astralis is holding from above. Benji firing towards the stairs. He'll have to grab hold of that diffuser, but it looks like it's a 5-1-1/2 for Astralis. Excellent spot for them to be in. Even if there are 2 weak bomb sites, that might be enough for Astralis to push themselves to the edge. But Benji's been going for kills. He retrieves the case, and now this diffuser going down. Again, Astralis have conceded this bomb site, and by ceding it, they'll retake. It's DP fire. Oh, no! Gun down, but Shuttle's there as the insurance policy. That was a close one. You can exhale now.
Yeah, that was...
You can exhale. It was a tight play, but Shuttle comes in so clutch. And that's the first half. Astralis, 5-1, mirroring the matchup that we just saw. And again, in a match that Astralis absolutely need to win if they want a shot at going to the newly announced Berlin Major in August. They got to topple Mirage, and they are 2 rounds away from doing that.
And I will say, I'm not going to lie to you. When I saw both the remaining 2 Astralis players line up with Shuttle already on 1 HP, and Benji's able to get off the plant, I was like, oh no, this is not going to end well. Thankfully, Shuttle is able to trade that one out, but that was way too close for comfort, especially with Shuttle being on 1 HP. But also, there's really not much to say there. I mean, Mirage had a solid entry. Astralis were playing very aggressively. They didn't even really need to drone all that much. If they just wanted to take those fights, it can be difficult, but if you're just able to win those 50-50s, you come away with a man advantage early on. Then at that point, where's the mid-round intel? Where is it? I don't know. I don't know where it was.
I mean, Astralis actually played that perfectly. We
Yeah.
see teams where they line up, right? And the vector variant that Lion uses can easily chew through 2 players, and especially, as you pointed out, with Shuttle being on such low HP, a single bullet from either that or his sidearm, unless he had the Gon 6, would have felled him. I mean, the Gon 6 could have potentially killed him as well, but either way. They played it smart. Astralis went in, and one went to the left, one went to the right. The Lion picked the target to the left, which was actually the correct target to play because you had more HP on DP fire, but you couldn't turn around at the same time. And it's why we like to highlight when teams hold those crossfires, those pixel-perfect crossfires where one's on the left side of the doorway and one's on the right. There's no way in any world you're hitting both of those targets. First half in the books, by the way, we'll do the tail of the tapes. Mirage getting first blood 4 of those rounds, but 2 of them, Astralis answered back immediately. So really only 2 uncontested opening picks. Same with Astralis, 2 uncontested opening picks. Mirage got 2 diffusers down, and that was it. I mean, they won neither of those rounds. Nice shot from Kento as we finish up this summary from the first half, and Mirage now doing their best Astralis impression, gutting down the members of Astralis as they try to walk on in. Mirage capitalizing off of that, and just not enough for Forest to tag the Mozzie of Kento, who is continually at half HP. Every time I look up, Carter, he's at half HP.
Kento likes to get in his fights. He likes to get in his engagements. He likes to take gunfights. Unsurprising. I'm also glad you didn't let me talk, because I was about to say, and let's look at Astralis' early round. I bet it's going to be so much more clinical. So Iconic...
I saved you from yourself,
You did, yeah. So Iconic, Amaru's in a break room, I assume, and dies, which, to be fair, is like, that's kind of how that position goes half the time, so unlucky. But then Kento, despite the fact that there's no Azami on the board, making that position he was playing way more difficult, just pre-fires across a doorway and catches DP fire rotating off. Those were 2 picks that required minimal effort for Mirage on the roam, and if they want to, which clearly they're doing, they could just start retreating back. They shouldn't completely turtle, of course. They should still have some offsite pressure, but they barely have to do much work. You can just have, as we can see right here, Benji lurking inside a lab to cut off an entire useful entry point for the attack, which Astralis now don't have 2 extra bodies to deal with.
And only 3 movable drones by Astralis at the moment. J90 has 2 of them. Down goes Benji, swings onto the window. I suppose those are the hero plays you can put out. Astralis still trail in numbers. 1 minute remaining. Nyx has not been droned and might be able to ping off of this yellow ping that we see. But no, the Ace of Forest looks to be getting away for now. Has to deal with the bandit batteries on the wall. A bit of a rarity to see a bandit these days, but there it goes.
Well, fortunately, right as Forest goes to throw the Soma charge, Nyx gets him dead. So unlucky for Astralis right there, because your slim hopes for winning this just went from bad to worse. Now J9O has to go on in. He gets killed from the furnace angle. Kento holding one of the most common positions in the book right there. So what is Shuttle to do? Not many active drones on the board, only 27 seconds. He's just flicking back and forth, trying to find something, Parker, anything, any hope whatsoever. And he has yet to find even a little bit.
Someone's been playing Aim Lab. Shuttle could break double digits here with 2 kills. They might be impactless, sitting on 8 right now, leading his team tied up with J9O. Mirage have made their way safely back in the bomb site. Still 4 players for the team from the Great White North. And, well, Shuttle doesn't even need to give a death to any of these players. Instead, over to maintenance he goes, and that is it. Mirage wins off of the clock. They only surrendered a single player in that fracas. And a pretty clinical defense on, again, one of the most defender-sided bomb sites in the entire Pro League map pool, in the entire pro scene that we have across the board. And right now, Armory is just Armory and Throne, continuing to go in that direction. All 3 times that bomb site's been played, been won by the defense.
And for Mirage, it was really just an effortless roam that they just had to put up. You just have Kento pre-fire across a window, normal thing to do. If you're just hoping to get a kill, you get one. Marmalade just sitting inside a break room as well. Just probably gets Iconic Marrowing in. You're all good. At that point, they just start lurking, and we were talking about drones for Mirage. One interesting thing to note about Astralis, they only had 1 active drone on the field, whether that be, you know, in an actual flank watch position or if it's just, you know, sitting in a room somewhere. They only had 1 drone actively watching in case there was a flank. So Nyx can play Gong pretty safely, and then Forest gets caught completely off guard just because, well, in the 3v5, some players died with drones in their pockets and there weren't many set up. So overall, Mirage got a very easy 2-man advantage, and then they kind of just waited.
I mean, it's also worth noting that it's Nyx's utility that allowed him to get that kill as well, because the bandit batteries burned time, but they also got the attention of Astralis. From above, they had to shoot out the nades, or they had to nade, I believe, from above to get rid of those bandit batteries, and then the Thermite, when he was over in that position, or the Ace was over in that position, got killed by Nyx. So, all in all, doing some good work.
Yeah.
Jokingly refer to him as Nightmare Nyx, but there are times when he absolutely does provide you a nightmare. Now, with the most defender-sided bomb site on this map in the books, what can Astralis accomplish? They're over towards Bunk, which again is that almost 50-50 bomb site. It does break in favor of the defense, but not by a huge amount.
Now, not by a huge amount at all, and typically when we see teams go for the attack, at least generally on Theme Park, they tend to prioritize that cache side, and it usually has a lot more success. Because as you saw from Mirage, if you try to attack from Arcade and Cafe, it's a lot of sitting outside and hoping your utility or your guns can do the talking, whereas if you go from cache, it's a little bit more, there's at least more of kind of a step-by-step process you can look at and move forward well.
Well, I mean, I was going to say that is a lesson as to how you use your Rotero drone, because you saw J9O adeptly repositioning the drone to avoid Melted's spot by that Cafe door, but it was not successful in taking out the shield. That shield by Cafe is still there. This was the spot that, if you recall, Astralis were so successful on their hold. It was actually J9O in that exact position who was able to stay alive to the very bitter end on that smoke roll. Either way, Mirage have not really had to give up Cafe, and now can also reposition towards yellow, but they'll lose one of the walls inside of Office, and that means Benji has to head for the hills. There's the Rotero drone to finally claim that deployable shield as Benji hits the deck, and Melted scampers over towards Cafe, but he has a way out if he wants. There's an impact in his pocket, and there's that soft wall as well on the back of Cafe that he can use to rotate towards the top of yellow stairs. Down goes Nyx, very first pick. Iconic instinctively hitting the Adrenal Surge after that. J9O could have capitalized and will do so as he downs Kento, but does not get the confirm. Marm out of nowhere with 2 huge kills on the Forest and Iconic. She's got Kento down for the count. It's a glorified 2v2. Mirage still have the numbers, but they'll have to retrieve Kento. Shuttle holding this angle by the shield, and he sees one on the rotate and actually gets Marm. She's presently leading the team at 7-5. That means Melted's in a 1v2. Unable to retrieve either of these teammates just yet. He's inside a Cafe. Astralis know this, but whether they've been able to get the read on it is anybody's guess. There goes Kento, no more information towards the top of Arcade Stairs. Melted Still holding this position, not moving. There's no way out for him. Other than that rotate through the soft wall, but the moment you hit that, they know you're in there, and they can very easily push in that direction. Both players from Astralis in the same spot. Can Marm give any useful calls? There's a swing, and amazingly, what a play by Astralis to win it. Melted had no chance whatsoever. Mirage burned their time out now as they sit staring down match point for Astralis.
I think it's a good time to take tactical timeout because it takes 7 rounds to win the game, and we're almost to that amount. So good time for Mirage to just take a step back, contemplate what they are doing wrong, because that round seemed like it was going to go their way. We saw a lot of waiting for Astralis, but waiting for the moment to strike, because while we saw Iconic and 1 or 2 other players, I believe 1 other player just sitting on the arcade and cafe side, we had the rest of the team coming in from cash and starting to slowly but surely put pressure onto the players playing on top of yellow, outside the waiting double door, and inside of the site as well. And once that happened, and once Iconic was able to get that first pick, Astralis say, okay, arcade cafe players and anybody who wants to or is in a good position, who thinks they can make a play, let's start moving on in. And Mirage are able to answer back pretty well, especially Marm just able to make what really should not have been a 2K with how many players are pushing her, somehow escapes alive. Excellent work overall, but it was just one of those things where I don't honestly think they did anything wrong necessarily. Sometimes the round gets away from you, and I think that was one of those cases with, not a lot of intel for either side.
I would have loved to have seen that very first pick from Astralis, too, that we saw from, I believe it was Iconic on the Think. Got the pick and then immediately hit the Adrenal Surge. I would have liked to have seen what that did for opening it up, because then Astralis immediately repositions. They go for the backup bunk, and they come into kitchen. They get gunned down right away. That's where Marm gets the 2K, and in her position, she was able to hold off for quite a while. But then Astralis just played it well, and we see this time and time again. I mean, this is what we'd like to see out of Dark Zero, by the way, after what they did in Charlotte. But time and time again, even though there's some underperformances right here, the 2 players on Astralis right now who usually top the boards, both Forest and Iconic, are not having great games. They're both underwater at the moment. They're being carried by J90 and Shuttle, who are more of your utility players, who are not necessarily the 2 who are going to be in positions to get those opening picks. And there's been a bit of jostling for roles from Astralis, and they go back to a little bit more of the norm, but ultimately, the depth of this team is what helped carry them to second in Charlotte. And now they are once again showing against Mirage, a different opponent than against Dark Zero, and Astralis obviously didn't beat DZ in Charlotte, but Astralis still showing that they've got some flexibility and depth. They can play the mid-round so well.
And one thing to worry about here, we talked about the statistics for the sites earlier. Mirage, on what could be their final attempt at a defense, have decided to go Initiation Room and Office. As you said earlier, one of the lowest rated site for the defense on Theme Park. And I mean, they're holding it in the normal way you would, place a couple players over by Arcade and Cafe, but Astralis in particular have quite a few operators to deal with this. And a utility, they still are running J90 on that Flores, but if they want to go clear out that roam via kills, they have the Jackal and the Dokkaebi to aid very well on a full clear of the map if they want to do it. Though, the one thing I will say that might be going against them, only 1 set of nades for Shuttle. Those will find somebody on the roam and they can't get in the building to take gunfights. That could certainly work against them.
Absolutely. Both logic bombs have gone off very quickly. We're only a minute into action, and one of the best assets that the attackers have at figuring out the location of the defenders, both expended. There's no Lion for backup. It's just going to go off of Jackal's Inox track to see where the feet are, and there it is. Iconic hitting that visor and knows somebody's very, very close. Right on the trail, and there's information for the attackers. So you know where the Jackal's coming from? There's a platoon of drones now going through bunk to assess, is there a defender playing over in this position, or do Astralis have clear passage on the west side of the map? The answer, they have clear passage, and we'll now open up some of the walls from inside of this kitchen component and look into initiation. If there's a tight angle to be played here, they will try to find it. Rotero drone goes out, just misses Melted, and we hit the 1 minute mark. Do or die for Mirage as Astralis do sit on this match point, and there's no timeouts, no grace period for Mirage to get back into this game.
They've taken some time to destroy those mute jammers on the reinforcements, specifically inside of initiation, which I was worried might cost them a lot of time just because they aren't exactly in the easiest to reach of places, but they're able to get one with the Rotero drones and get another shield inside of break as well. Marm put to very low HP. Somebody just drops down into maintenance or security and just somehow vaults over and wins that fight with Nyx.
Iconic picks up 1 in the second for his trouble. Shuttle's there as well. Marm cannot get back into the bomb site. Suddenly, things are falling into place. Diffuser almost complete as well. Benji to retake, gunned down by Shuttle, and they see Kento, but Shuttle can't get it done. Forrest can. What an incredible, exhilarating end as Astralis hits the gas, and they just go for it. All gas, no brakes.
And that was, I'm not gonna lie, it's a completely one-dimensional push, right? They open up the wall, that's the only side of the map they're pushing from it, and that was cute. But, so what do? They drop security hatch. They drop security hatch. Not only do they just do that, there's also somebody prone in there that they don't know about. And Iconic just vaults over and kills them anyway. That was not the play you'd think would work out and win you a series, but hey, if Astralis are feeling rejuvenated from their, batch of losses last week, that was a play that certainly proved they do not care if somebody has gone unnoticed.
Now, Astralis were playing with all the confidence in the world through a lot of those rounds, especially on defense. The way that we saw that moxie that they had that could very easily be interpreted as hubris, shall we say.
Ego.
Absolutely, and there were a lot of ego peaks from Astralis, but against Mirage, whether Mirage were just mentally boomed or not, or just Mirage weren't up to the task today, it was Astralis winning those ego challenges and winning those ego plays, and they pick up 3 big points. Mirage, unfortunately, still sits at 0-3 in the basement of the NAL. They have some work to be done, but they've got 6 more matches to right that ship. That's it for our final match, but we've got our outro segment. Sit tight, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Celebrate, no pump fake, hesitate. I've been scoring every day. Champagne Perrier. Since 9-3, been in the box, now I'm stepping up to home. Like straight out the sandlot, now I'm plotting on the globe. I've really been addicted to you. All of my attention I've been giving to you. Caught up in my feelings, I got feelings for you. Caught up in my feelings, I got feelings for you. On my mind, I can't lie. On my mind, I can't lie. Pull you down till you dry. Pull you down till you dry. All the time, ease my mind. All the time, ease my mind. I know that you're dangerous, I'm addicted to you. I might rent the Lambo and go drive it like it's stolen.
Oh, we're back. Well, at least the coin likes Mirage, right? It's picked him every single time. Unfortunately, Mirage has yet to find a win here in NAL Stage 2. That said, Astralis, doing what they needed to do, right? I mean, if you're going to make a run similar to what you saw in Stage 1 from Astralis, they needed to win this one, and they needed to kind of make it look easy, and I feel like they got that job done at least.
Yeah, I mean, Astralis looking nice on their performance back. Week 1 was a bit rocky for them, but I thought we saw a very proficient game from them today, and that's good to see from a top team. Looking at stats, Shuttle having a big game. He is a player that I do feel like is kind of underperformed as far as the kills go. He's kind of one of those players that will play Sledge, will play one of those core like aggressive fragging roles, and often goes negative. 11-2, even against Mirage, I think is a really positive stat line for him. So I'm very happy to see that.
Man, this Mirage team is terrible.
Okay.
I'm sorry, dude.
Okay.
I don't. There's no other way to mince words about this. We're 3 play days in. I know. But your support player is the one who has the highest score, technically, is tied with somebody who's meant to be your entry for kills. Melted isn't doing what he's meant to do, backing up like with Kento to a point where it really makes that much of an impact. Nyx is down here playing vertical operators that we still have questions about his own attacking proficiency, and then Benji's just kind of there. And Benji has just kind of been there on this Mirage team forever to a point where I don't know where they're ever going to be able to break out of this rut. Yes, we knew Astralis was going to win. Yes, we knew it was going to be dominant, but I still look at this Mirage team and question where the hell this train was meant to go. What station are they at? How far away are they from getting there? Because it's not there yet, and I doubt it ever will at this pace.
I mean, I think the positive is that, like, we're still only week 2. There is time for Mirage to improve. They're obviously not making top 4. I mean, that's pretty unrealistic at this point, but I do think there's possibilities for them to start winning games at least towards the end of the season. They'll start looking competitive. Yeah, I think it's possible. I think they have the ability to improve.
Which ones? Let's go back and
I think they could beat Sonics if they improve. I think they could beat Dark Zero if DZ continue on their trend. I think they could beat Beast Coast. Like, I think they're possible. But
I even look at downward trending teams and question if Mirage can do anything.
Jumps in order to like make that happen. We haven't seen evidence of that so far, but there's time and there's possibilities.
All right. Well, we have a little bit of good cop, bad cop going on with the analysts. But the thing is you're both right, in my opinion. And I'm not just saying that. I'm not just saying that.
Thanks,
I'm saying that because there is a chance that things could get better, but you got to call it like you see it right now, and it's not good, right? If that makes you feel bad as a Mirage fan or as a Mirage player, something like that, well, win games. What more can you say, really? I mean, and
results are the only thing that really speak here.
Sure, the possibility is there that they will improve, right? I mean, we know there's talent. You don't get to NAL without being a good Rainbow Six Siege player. That is obvious.
Yeah.
But once you're here, you gotta make it happen. You gotta put, the skill in the game. You gotta make the games happen. Let's take a look at one round in particular. Obviously, Astralis, kind of had this thing through and through pretty much all the way, but we wanted to actually talk a little bit about point of improvement for Mirage, something that they could look at getting a little bit better at.
Lynx touched on this quite a bit during the cast, but the droning was not ideal. Jane, I know, completely just playing a rat spot there and not getting caught at all. This was a big problem throughout the entire first half. Mirage not having a lot of value out of those drones, constantly getting caught off guard of where players were positioned. That moment that we saw to start this one off for Jane, I know was kind of the big kind of red flag for me. Like, okay, something's clearly not going well here. A player in barrels shouldn't be that unexpected. He gets 2 for his troubles, which again is a bit of an issue. I would have liked to see maybe a bit more coordination as those 2 players pinched him. Marm did pick up that trade eventually, but then got traded herself, so there's problems there as well. Ultimately, it is just a lack of information on the stacking side, coupled with a lack of coordination, coupled with a struggle to perform, frag-wise from a couple of these players. And there's a lot going on here, but ultimately this was one point that we wanted to hit home and one thing that maybe we will see Mirage improve upon as the stage goes on.
Here's something that I've noticed. Anytime I get criticism about something, I always wish it were constructive, and I always want there to be some way forward or something like, hey, maybe there's an improvement to be made in X position. I'm cool if Mirage start droning more. I'm cool if that's a baseline point that you're able to start from. Obviously, it's a fundamental. We don't necessarily consider that to be like something that teams at a pro level should have issues with. Some teams still do. So if it starts there, if it starts with the intel game, working off of drones more effectively, then that's a decent starting point. And actually being able to use that intel, capitalize off of it, and decide what you want to do with it. Because this game was an example of Mirage blowing leads. Maybe they'd get an entry pick for a little while, and then they can't substantiate it. It doesn't last for very long. They try, and it kind of just goes nowhere. So if you're able to use drones better, cool. That's a wonderful place to start from. but you got to carry that into something else. And Mirage were not able to capitalize almost any time they had opening frags today.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, not much more to say about that, really. Mirage getting bodied by Astralis, but that's kind of what we all expected. Astralis moving on. They needed that win, too. We talked about that, one overtime win, one loss already going into this one. They needed a win in regulation. That helps them in the points